Kel Chayzot Kei.
Go. Shalom Aleichem to everybody. My name is Gotlieb. I have friends that call me Mordche. Lately I got a title Reb Mordche. It's an update, it's an upgrade. Arab Reb, yeah. But I grew up here in the States, in Borough Park. And that was my name, Moti. I like that name more than all the other names, with the Rebs and all the other kind of things that come along with it. So, I grew up here in Borough Park. I moved to Etzishol with my parents when I was 13 years old. As soon as I came to Israel, they put me into a Breslev yeshiva in Bnei Brak. That was the only Breslev yeshiva that was around those times. It was the Breslev yeshiva from Yid. It was called Shimon Bergstein, which he has all the Bergsteins, all the Einiklach. That's Einiklach from Shimon Bergstein.
Right there.
Son from?
Two of them.
Great grandson.
The namesake. This is a grandson.
Oh. So that's where I got started to understand. I came there when I came to the yeshiva. It was a mechina before Yeshiva Tan. I was 12 years old, and as an American boy, all of a sudden I found myself with Yerushalayim, Mohran, all the Shapiros and the Horowitzen, and that was my Breslev experience. That's how it started off. I learned the Breslev yeshiva when I was a bacha, Yeshiva Tana, and I grew up as a Breslever. Learned koils from Breslev. I knew a lot of Breslev Chassidim that don't live today already. That was my experience with Breslev, and I thought, till a few years ago, I thought that I know what Breslev is all about, and I had a feeling that I'm maybe more Breslev than other people that are more Breslev. I used to come always Rosh Hashanah to Mohran, and then we came to Uman. Uman started off, and there's a person that living in a community of Breslev, Madame of Breslev Shul, so I felt myself more Breslev than a lot of people that started coming to Breslev, Bali Chuvis. I felt that I understand better what Breslev is all about and what Rab Nachman is all about. I have like more of a shtickle Yerush. My father was a Breslever. One of the things I saw by my father that was very interesting in those times, I'm talking about 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and still 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, he was one of the only people that used to actually sit and learn the Sefer of the Rebbe, Rab Nachman, the Likutey Moharan, and he used to have in the Sefer. It was part of his life. This Sefer, Likutey Moharan, was part of his life, and he learned it with a murdike iyum, and a mordike geschmack, and he used to go with a Torah. He used to learn a Torah like he could learn a Torah. There was Torahs he used to learn for a few months. There was a Torah that he could learn for 2 years. From time to time, he used to jump back to old Torah that he learned a few years ago, and again give it like another month or two, because he had a certain geschmack in this Torah. But the way he used to learn Likutey Moharan, what I used to feel about him, that he was living it. It was living in him. The Rebbe's Torahs were living in him. The Rebbe's ideas were living in him. It wasn't just to learn the way Breslev learned till today Likutey Moharan, which is more like mehr for Pekiyas Dekoif, and you learn the Torah of the Pchinas, and you don't really understand the connections that the Rebbe makes. Even though Rav Nosson writes that I feel the Pshutum Shel Dvar, I'm not writing the Akdama from Likutey Moharan, that even Pshutum Shel Dvar is very, very deep. And the truth is that whoever tried to learn Likutey Moharan, if you don't fake yourself, so you could see right away that you don't understand. And that's the feeling that you get. And Memela, if you're a Breslever, so it starts off with a wrong foot. You start learning Likutey Moharan and you feel that you can't understand Likutey Moharan. So you go more to the parts that you could understand in Breslev, which that's the Likutey Aloches, which you could understand the Chalokim, which Rav Nosson speaks, the Chalokim from the Schaskis more. But the Torah itself that Rav Nosson writes in Likutey Halachos, which is based on a Torah in Likutey Moharan, that's how it goes. And Rav Nosson himself says that the Rebbe said to him that no one could understand his chidushim, only someone that knows the Torah back and forth. And if you don't know the Torah good back and forth, you can't understand Rav Nosson's chidushim itself on the Torah. But that also in Breslov was like, you used to learn Likutey Halachos b'pkiyas, like the pieces of the Chaskis, but the rest of the Torah where Rav Nosson is connecting the idea from the Torah to the Halacha and Shulchan Aruch, which he's writing the Halacha on, that part always looked like a drush thing, not something that's mechayev. And that's the way I grew up. But since I had a father that used to learn Likutey Moharan this way, so I always had a certain meshicha to try it out. And certain stages in life, when I was still in Koil, I used to learn Likutey Moharan more biyun. I could learn a Torah for a month. Biyun, that was the most I could learn a Torah biyun. And Baruch Hashem, this is why I came to talk about a project that I started in Eretz Yisrael, which is called the Tayl B'Teirosai. Tayl B'Teirosai in English is like to take a journey, to have a journey in Rav Nachman's Torah that expresses actually that a Torah Likutey Moharan is something that you could take l'tayl. You could have it's a journey. It's a journey not just in the learning of it, but it takes your personal life, and you start going with the Rebbe's ideas, and you start living a different life. So what happened was, to put it down to small money over here, I had a shifat that there should be a koil Likutey Moharan. Since it's such an amazing sefer, and the Rebbe wanted, also the Rebbe said the Farish that he wants every one of his chassidim, if you're a Breslov chassid, you should have a kviyas in learning his sefer b'kiyas, and another kviyas everyone should have, a Breslov should have in learning his sefer b'iyun godoy. He wants to learn b'iyun godoy, and another sikha the Rebbe says that you should learn his Torahs and be mesamek in his Torah ad mokum shiyad sichloi magas. It's a very strong expression. Ad mokum shiyad sichloi magas, which the Rebbe is telling you, yes, I want you to use your moyach, your brain, and think try to go in and think deep into the Torah. So I had a shifa to open a koil for this learning, and I opened a koil 5 years ago. And that took me myself, which I thought I know what Breslov is, and I know what the Rebbe is all about, and I thought I know how to learn Likutey Moharan biyun. It took me myself into this process where I started learning the Torah from the Rebbe biyun godel. And what happened was that when we started the koil, we learned Torah base Chelik Aleph, and after a month we used to learn an hour. Hour was the koil halacha, you learn halacha, and also you learn every day you learn an hour Likutey Moharan. After I think a month and a half, the Gotlieb came over and they said that we have to change the Torah. We learn Torah base, we learn, and even though the feeling was that a lot of things we don't understand in the Torah yet, we don't understand the hechrech, we don't really understand what's going on, but the feeling was that wus me versteht man, and wus me versteht is just shengendik, you know what I mean? We can't understand. Maybe someone that knows how to learn a lot of Kabbalah, a lot of Chassidus, someone that's a big Gotlieb Yisrael, so maybe he can know more Amkes over here. But we Jungelite, we don't have the patience more to learn more than a month and a half of Torah and Likutey Moharan. What I could say is that right now what's happening is that the last Torah that we learned before Torah Ayin, we learned Torah Chav Beis. So this koil and all the koils in Eretz Yisrael that we have in Tayl B'Teirosai and all the chabrus from the Bochum, all the yeshivas, we're learning Torah Chav Beis a half a year. A half a year learning Torah Chav Beis, and we had to stop learning Torah Chav Beis, and we went over to Torah Ayin. Mamish, every Gungaman expressed that it's so hard for him to leave the Torah because he's starting to feel right now, after half a year, that right now he's starting to chap and to have a feel what the Rebbe is actually talking about. So that's the change that's going on in Eretz Yisrael with this project that we opened the Tayl B'Teirosai. We have hundreds of Bochrim in all the best Chassidish yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael. I'm talking about the best Chassidish yeshivas: Chaim Moshe, Amola Shel Torah, Chibin, Kamenetz. Even in Bnei Brak, we have in Litvish yeshivas. We have groups. We had a whole group of Breslov Bochrim. I mean, it started with 2 Bochrim in a yeshiva, Litvish yeshiva called Chadera. It started with 2-3 Bochrim, and from 2-3 Bochrim started learning Likutey Moharan. Another 13 Bochrim came along, Litvish Bochrim. They started learning Likutey Moharan also. And it became a whole balagan in the yeshiva because the best bochum were putting their heads into Likutey Moharan, and they were like they were amazed by the chokhmah that there is in this sefer. So by then they threw out here for the bochum, they had a mixed in the yeshiva. The Rashiv himself learned Likutey Moharan B'tzina, that's what I know. And he has an agent that became a Breslover, also big yad and a shtickle town from Moshe Shapira.
Yes.
There's the Eidim, Meislish, right, Meislish. Okay, it's on tape here. I don't want to make problems.
It's already on YouTube. That's it.
What? Yeah, I know. I met the Rosh Yeshiva. I told him he didn't know it's me. I said you had a balagan with Breslev. I met him in the play. I said it's me. I said I was the one that came there and gave the shurim and everything. But this thing is picking up in Eretz Yisrael. It's picking up, and we have hundreds of bochrim. Get the kevos, can learn the Torah, benigla biyun. And they're learning the Rebbe's Sefer, and they're so connected to the Sefer Likutey Moharan. And that's only Bochum. I'm not talking about Yingalite, Koilin. We have all over Eretz Yisrael. We start from Yerushalayim, Bnei Brak, Brachfeld, Beitar, Har Yona, Chevron, in the Nachluyot. Believe me, I mamish can't remind myself right now. But I was like 13 Koilins of Yingalite, and Kfutz of Bochum, which we take a Torah in Breslev. We decide this is the Torah, everyone's going to learn together. And they're learning it and living the Torah, and it's changing people's lives. I could say that it changed my own life. And I have a lot of friends that joined this thing of learning the Rebbe's Torah, and the mamish telling me that it's changing them. It's giving them meaning and geschmack and chiyas and ruchnis and everything, because the head licked in Rebbe's Torah. So how did we actually do the thing? How do we do this change in Eretz Yisrael? And which is why I'm talking about it, because this is the thing what we want to do here also in America, Be'ezer Hashem, with my friend Rav Nachman Fried, which is part of this whole movement. We want to try to bring it into Anshe Shleimenu here in America, that a Breslover should start learning the Torah and Likutey Moharan and having chiyas and feeling and knowing how to learn the Sefer and how to have chiyas from the Sefer. So, the truth is that the Rebbe said a lot of sichos about his Torahs, but one of the amazing sichos that the Rebbe said about his Torahs, the Rebbe described his Torah, and he said, my Torah, every Torah in Likutey Moharan, every Torah for itself is like a beautiful palace, where you walk into the palace, and in the palace there are echolois, and chedorim, and pishpishinoim, and chaloinois, and you walk around this beautiful palace, this beautiful armoin, and the nefesh from the person that's going around this armoin has a spalus from the beauty of the palace and the measurement, how everything is meduyik and everything sits so right, and you keep on going more and more, and you keep on being amazed. Whoever looks at the sikha, this sikha, it's also part of the sikhas in the Akdama from Likutey Moharan. So Rav Nachman describes his Torah as a beautiful kind of experience and a journey that everyone could have. And there's another sikha that the Rebbe says about how his Torahs are, that every Torah is like the Rebbe starts with one idea and he builds up, he connects a few ideas, and then he goes over to the second Sif Beis, and he connects another 3 different ideas that he didn't speak about in the first one, and he comes to Sif Gimel and he connects all the ideas that from Sif Aleph. He connects them all the ideas Sif Beis, and whoever takes a Torah and Likutey Moharan and tries it out, that's actually how it works. That the Rebbe starts in Sif Aleph, he starts with one idea, and then he goes over to the second place and third place. And the truth is that it could be amazing, but it could be very, you could get mixed up and feel all of a sudden that you're not connected to what's going on over here in the Torah, and you don't have a chance to understand really what's going on. So someone once came to the Rebbe and said that there's certain people who say that they can't learn the Rebbe's Torah from Nachman's Torah because it's very deep. So the Rebbe said, whoever says something like that he can't understand my Torah, is apikoros. Because every person could find himself in my Torah. That's what the Rebbe said. So the question is, Taka, is it Taka that way? I mean, of course it's that way, but how do you connect in such a way to have such a geschmack of feeling in the Torah and Likutey Moharan, to be able to mamish learn months and months of Torah and Likutey Moharan? So you have to learn the Sefer Likutey Moharan the way the Rebbe wanted you to learn it. If you don't learn it the way with the instructions, if you have a machine, you buy a new phone and you don't read the instructions, how you use the phone, so you won't know. You won't know how to use the phone. You won't understand. So how special how special the phone is. There's two important things to understand about how to learn Likutey Moharan, and that's the mafteach. That's the key. That if you learn it that way, you can understand what the Rebbe is saying, and have a mordike chiyas in the Rebbe's terms. So first of all, there's Rabbi Avraham Bar Nachman's, one of the biggest Breslov Rabbonim that was in Breslov, an older generation. Rabbi Nachman wrote one of the deepest svarim to be Masbel Likutey. It's called Bir Likutey, which this Bir Likutey itself, it's very hard to understand. But he writes Chai Klolim, 18 Klolim, how to learn the Sefer Likutey Moharan. We're not going to go now and learn the 18 Klolim, because to learn the 18 Klolim, that itself can take a few months just to understand. But the main klal, the main thing that Rabbi Nachman writes, that's the way to understand the Likutey Moharan, is called Minei Ubei. Minei Ubei means that you understand everything in the Torah from the Torah itself. Nothing needs any support from any other sefer in the world, and not from any other sefer in the world to understand what the Rebbe wants to say, even from a different Torah in Likutey Moharan. If you want to understand what the Rebbe is saying here, you have to have patience, and you have to know, but with a full emunah, that if you keep on learning the Torah, and you're going from one sif to another sif, by the end, one thing is going to explain the other one. Minei Ubei. And when you learn it that way, you're able to always understand what's so special and what's so amazing about the Rebbe's Torahs. Now, when we say to learn Minei Ubei, to try to understand the Torah from itself inside, Avada, the first klal is not to bring in other akdomis from other svarim to try to explain the Rebbe, which that's something that's very mekubal by us, that you start learning the Torah in Likutey Moharan, and right away you try to explain what the Rebbe is saying. So you say, well, there's something like this in another sefer. The Maral writes about it, the Ramchal writes about it, and if it's a noise that touches a little Kabbalah, so B'chlal, if you know Kabbalah, you would bring from the Rizal, from the Ramak, and that's how you're trying to explain the Torah. The problem is that the Rebbe said that whatever I'm talking about, my Torah is nu hakdomis chadoshes, legamra. That means it's true that when I speak about an idea, like let's say now we're starting Torah Chofei, the Rebbe speaks about Seichel, the Rebbe speaks about Medama. And in a tivisdik way, when someone will start learning the Torah, and the Rebbe says, like, the Rebbe starts the Torah and it says, Kitzor kol odom, lohoitzias atzumi ma medame v'lalis el ha-seichel. So the person will say, what's a Medama? And he would look up and find probably some other svarim that say the word medama or something doima, and try to explain that this is what the Rebbe means. And actually he's helping himself understand the Rebbe, because the Rebbe doesn't say right over here what medama is. But the way to learn the Likutey Moharan is, if you don't really understand in the beginning, and I don't understand also, what's a medama? And the Rebbe continues further, and the Rebbe says the word dimyonis, so I could connect a little and say medama is a dimyon. But it will make it easier for me. It will make it easier if I look up in other svarim and see what Madama is. But that's where you close your head. The minute that you'll go and look in somewhere else, in a different sefer, so you're closing your mind to be able to chap that the Rab Nachman is being mechadish something, a new understanding in the whole idea of Madama. But not just in Madama, even when the Rebbe says, Tzoch lahalis loitzias atzmi Madama v'lahalis atzmi la seichel. Seichel is a vada thing that Renachman wasn't mechadish, that there's something called Seichel. So avada, I would like to look up what Seichel, if Renachman goes in, and Rebbe says that there's a Seichel b'koyach, and from the Seichel b'koyach you have to be mamshir that you should go to Seichel b'foil, and then there's Seichel anikne. So b'vadi, I would like to have a few akdamis, an explanation of what Seichel is all about. What does Seichel mean? So the news is that the Rebbe wants to tell you and teach you what Seichel is also. Aleph base. There was a famous story that once Rebbe had a big Talmud, his name was Rabbi Yidl, that was known and very mefusam for a very big balasoga and a big mekubal. And he came to the Rebbe to speak, and he started talking Torah. And the Rebbe said when he was saying, the Rebbe said to him, you want to know? Don't come to me with the ganze Breitkeit. Now, who am I against the Rebbe Yudel? He was like one of the Talmud from the Maggid. He was a very big person. But the Rebbe wanted to tell him, if you want to hear Torah from me, don't come with your Agdamas. I'm going to teach you. And that's the way to learn and to have a kesher with the Rebbe. You sit down with a bittul and you let the Rebbe teach you from Aleph Beis what it means medama and what it means seichel and what it means b'chlal to be a Elachid. Everything you give trust in the Rebbe, like Rav Nosson said. Rav Nosson, that was the biggest Talmud from the Rebbe, and he was a big Talmud Chacham before he became a Kurv to the Rebbe. Rav Nosson said that he threw away his mind, his seichel. What does it mean threw away his mind, his seichel? He understood that whatever he knew in Torah, whatever he understands, any kind of concept, ideas, asagas that he has in Torah, asagas that he has in the Rebbeinu Shalom, whatever it is, the Rebbe is going to teach him something new, something different. And that's why Rav Nosson was Zoichatak to be Mekabel from the Rebbe. The Rebbe himself said that Rav Nosson mit Naftali weisen a bissl, kennen a bissl für mich. The biggest talent from the Rebbe, Rav Nosson and his friend Rav Naftali, what they know about me is miktsas shebe miktsas. So how do we taka know what Rav Nachman was all about? And I'm going back to the part where I said that I grew up as a Breslover, and I thought that I know what Breslov is all about. I know what the Rebbe is all about. I really know it, but I felt I have a shtickle gefühl. I know what Breslov is about. I know what the Rebbe is all about. What happened from this project is that I understood that if you don't know the Rebbe's Torahs, and you don't know how to learn a Torah in Likutey Moharan, and you never had experience, even one time in your life, to take one Torah in Likutey Moharan, and to sit down and to listen to the Rebbe, so you don't know nothing about Breslov. Nothing. It didn't start even. Maybe you know more than a person, and if there's going to be any political question about Breslov, probably someone that grew up as a Breslov has more to say about what's the Rebbe's way than someone that came from nowhere. But if you really want to have a true connection with the Rebbe, and you really want to live the Rebbe, and have chiyas and be able to feel that the Rebbe is going along with you and giving you advice on every step in your life, in your personal life, in Shalom Bayis, in Panos, and whatever it's going through with you, you have to start living in the Rebbe's Torah. And the Rebbe himself said, I have a rotzen that every one of my chassidim should go with a Torah in Likutey Moharan for at least 2-3 months. 2-3 months means you take a Torah in Likutey Moharan, you start learning it, you start living it, you start touching the Torah, and in that way, you start connecting to the Rebbe's ideas. Now, we have to understand that to live such a kind of... L'tayl b'Torah is not a program, koil. A koil is a process. L'tayl b'Torah is a lifestyle. It's like Nachman told me, which we got into this whole thing, he said it became how do you say a cat?
Culture.
It's a culture. Because a cult. Once you get into this thing and you touch this thing of the Likutey Moharan and you start enjoying it, it's like it's like drugs. You get verkauft on it. Rav Nachman takes you on a journey, and you can't stop thinking about his Torah. You can't stop. You mamish every step in life. You think about what would the Rebbe. So what's my avoid over here right now? The feed the Torah that I'm learning now. And every Torah in Likutey Moharan for itself is a way that you can live a whole lifestyle with this Torah. Every Torah in Likutey Moharan is a palace. Every Torah in Likutey Moharan could speak, like the Rav Nosson writes, to every person, Mereish Kol Darga, not Seif Kol Darga. It could speak to the highest person, it could speak to the lowest person. Rav Nachman has what to sell to the whole world. In one Torah in Likutey Moharan, when the Rebbe said that through learning his Sefer, you could become a Baal Tshuva Gomer, it doesn't mean that you have to learn the whole Likutey Moharan. Even one Torah in Likutey Moharan could make you a Baal Tshuva Gomer. And I'm saying it from experience. I'm saying it from experience because I have young light and a Tzishron from Breslover houses that said that they were Breslovers and they didn't really know what Breslov was all about. They daven in a Breslover shul. They come in Rosh Hashanah, Kulman, and they took themselves to one of the Torahs in Likutey Moharan. They learned it a few months, and now they're walking around and saying that the Rebbe changed their lives. They're living the Rebbe from one Torah in Likutey Moharan.
Changes the personality, the person.
Yeah. It changes the personality. It changes the way you look at life. Everything changes. I have it, even though you can learn the Torah like we learn Torah Ayin. Are there anything in light that learn Torah Ayin over here? We have a few lights.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, I just want to give an idea about Torah Ayin from a place faket that I don't want to say that's pshat what the Rebbe is saying in the Torah, but the way I was able to connect when I understood what the Rebbe is saying in Torah Ayin, which I understood, that I'm sure that what I understood is a vada, also a chelik that I could understand, that every person could understand. Everyone has his way to understand, and that's what's amazing about Likutey Moharan, that everyone could be mechadish. The Rebbe wanted every one of his chassidim to be mechadish in his Torah. It's a very interesting concept. What do you mean be mechadish in my Torah? If someone took out a sefer, Moshe Feinstein took out a sefer, Chaim Brisker took out a sefer, the Maral took out a sefer of Torah. He didn't ask that you should be mechadish in the sefer. He wanted you to understand he was the mechadish. He's mechadish. Now, if you learn, you're able to you understand what I'm saying right now. Avada, you could always be mekasher from one idea, from one sefer to another sefer, from one idea to another. There's no Indian to go and sit and be mechadish in the sefer itself. But the Rebbe wanted you to be mechadish because the Rebbe's ideas, the way he put it, the way he brought it down to the world, the words, the oisius, that it's a place where everyone could find a place to understand a new idea which someone else would not understand. So two people could learn Torah Ayin, and you could see that actually if the light learn together, a Torah together, so everyone comes up and everyone has a psachidish and a mahalach in the Torah, and he says it with such a emunah, and it's built on the Torah, it's not stam saying something, it's built minei ubei, he explains the connection between one and the other, and he explains an idea and a eitzah, how you could feel a connection to the Eibusha through his idea, and he speaks it with such a slivis, and there's someone else learning with him together, his chavrus, learning Torah Ayin. He hears, he can't upfrag what the guy's saying because it's built right, but he has a different feeling against in the Rebbe's Torah. He feels that he understands a different Eitzah Legamra, and the truth is that his Eitzah that he took out for himself, and his Eitzah, both of them are true. Both of them are Emes V'yatzim, and it's Torah Selikim Chaim. And that's how the Rebbe brought a sefer that's called Likutey Moharan in the world, that every Yiddish person, every Jew could take out a new understanding, a new ischaskas for himself. Where was I? I forgot what I was talking about. Torah Ayin. So the Rebbe Torah Ayin speaks about shiftless. About shiftless. In this Torah and Torah Ayin, the Rebbe doesn't say one time what you have to do. Like in other Torahs in Likutey Moharan, a lot of times the Rebbe says v'tzorich kol odom. Like here, we're starting now Torah Chofei. So the Rebbe starts ki tzorich kol odom lahoitzi etz atzmei ma'amedame. So that's like whatever I'm going to say here in the Torah, any deep ideas that you're going to understand in Torah Chofei, b'soiver shel dover, the avoid that you have to do is lahoitzi etz atzmei ma'amedame. In Torah Ayin, the Rebbe doesn't say anything about tzorich. The Rebbe just says that through shiftless, you come to the place that you're able to be mamshech alikus l'kol mokoim, like the Mishkan. And another thing the Rebbe says that through giving tzedakah l'tzadik, nisborach l'chein aidei shenoitz tzedakah l'tzadik, nisborach b'kefil kiflayim. So it's for sure that one of the eitzes that come out from Torah Ayin is shiftless, and the Rebbe connects shiftless to anova, to katnis. The Rebbe says, brings the Chazal, b'chol mokoim sh'ata moitze gdulosoi, sh'akadosh baruch hu shoma ata moitze an v'nesenusoi. Which the Chazal is that where there's godless, there's anova, but the Rebbe changes the idea, and the Rebbe says nimtza, that wherever there's anova and katness, you have godless. So the idea is that the Rebbe is trying to say that through shiftless you could come to such special things that I'm talking about in Torah Ayin. So I was walking around and trying to understand, because the Rebbe said you have to go with the Torah. Go to Torah means not just when you're learning; it's a whole day trying to understand. What is the Rebbe talking about shiftless? How do I meet shiftless? How do I do the void of shiftless? What does it mean? Now, for sure, if I would open up another sefer saying, oh, the Rebbe's talking about shiftless, sure, there's other tzaddikim talking about shiftless, and in fact, the Rebbe says, connect shiftless to anova. So it's anova, oh, show you basically what this is. I know what it is. It's shiftless. It's the same shiftless that the Rebbe brings the pasuk that Avraham Avinu said, v'noichi offer ve'efer, I'm offer, shiftless of offer. And Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe on of Moed. So we're talking about the same idea that everyone knows. Every Chassidish sefer speaks about anova, speaks about shiftless and katness, If I would go there, I would for sure not have any way to see what the Rebbe is speaking about shiftless in Torah and what's so special. And then all of a sudden I had this feeling that the Rebbe says you have to have, whoever learned Torah will understand, you have to have shiftless, because shiftless, when you have shiftless, you're shaykh to offer. And if you're shaykh to offer, you're shaykh to the koyach ha-moishech, which is the hefech from the koyach ha-machriach, which the Rebbe speaks over here in Torah Ayin. And again, in Torah Ayin, the merkas from Torah Ayin is that there's a koyach ha-moishech and there's a koyach ha-machriach. And like Rav Nosson says in Likutey Halachos, and it comes out from the Torah itself, the koyach ha-moishech is the good part. Koyach ha-moishech is the koyach that takes you to the Eibishter. And the koyach ha-machriach, like Rav Nosson says in Likutey Halachos, everything that disconnects you from the Eibishter, that's because there's a koyach ha-machriach pushing you away from the Eibishter. So the Rebbe says that if you want to be shaykh to the koyach ha-moishech, you have to have shiftless. And all of a sudden I chapped that the koyach ha-moishech is actually what the world today speaks about, gravity. That's the koyach ha-moishech. The Rebbe is telling you, you have to let yourself disconnect from the koyach ha-machriach that's machriach you and taking you away from the Eibishter, anything that's disconnected from the Eibishter, and let yourself, what shiftless means, let yourself go back to the offer. It's mamish like the feeling of, like the Rebbe says in gravity, the Rebbe says that the koyach ha-moishech, Mitzad Atzmo is always moishech everything to himself, but there's a koyach ha-machriach that takes away from the koyach ha-moishech. And the minute the Rebbe says that the koyach ha-machriach stops, so the koyach ha-moishech goes back into power, and it becomes even stronger now, because it has in itself, in the koyach ha-moishech, all of a sudden he has in himself the koyach ha-machriach also. So through this idea that all of a sudden I was connecting old ideas from the Rebbe in the Torah, so I had a new understanding of shiftless. And I was able to connect with this idea in every situation which I was living and going through, that all time, okay, shiftless. And not in a way of shiftless, which means like, shiftless could have a meaning of a dova shofel. Like in other Torahs, Torah Shain Zayin, the Rebbe says that a person, even though you step on him like offer, v'nafshi kofel ha-kol tir, brings the same pasuk, like over here in Torah Ayin, v'nafshi kofel ha-kol tir. In Torah Shain Zayin, v'nafshi kofel ha-kol tir is a different idea than v'nafshi kofel ha-kol tir in Torah Ayin. In Torah Ayin, the v'nafshi kofel ha-kol tir is a new way and a new feeling in shiftless. And the shiftless is not, shiftless means I'm shuffle, I'm ready to be a shuffle that you should step on him. Shiftless means letting go and going down, being shaykh to the koyach ha-moishech, and don't let any other power that's disconnecting you from the Eibishter to have a shlita on you. Let you just get. They said, let go. Oh, a lot of times you have a certain situation with yourself, and so on. A colleague person meets you and he says, "You're right. Let it go. Let it go." And the Rebbe is saying that when you let something go, just let it go with emunah. That's when you're able to be making the mishkan. You be mamish. It's a komas mishkan. You're making the mishkan in your heart right now, and you mamshech alikus to yourself through letting go. That this is an idea that I felt it this way. I'm not going to keep on talking about the idea, because again, if you're not in Torah Ayin, it's going to be hard to connect. I'm just trying to show that in my world, when I was learning Torah Ayin, this idea of shiftless had so much meaning for me. And I started understanding that from day to day, I understand it more in a deeper way. And I saw other people that are learning Torah Ayin, the way they're connecting to the Eibishter, the way they understand shiftless, the way they understand what means a mishkan, the way they understand what means a likus. Everyone has a place in the Torah if you're able and you give yourself time to learn Likutey Moran. Now, to learn Likutey Moran, like we're starting over here, the Rebbe says, Kitzorich, you don't have to have the answer right away to know what medama is, taka. You learn, you touch the words, you smell them, you live with them. Part of them you understand right away, part of them you don't understand. Whatever you don't understand is okay. There's supposed to be questions in Likutey Moran. And one of the reasons why people don't learn Likutey Moran, because he has questions, and he's embarrassed to say, Rebbe, I'll tell you the truth, I don't know what you're talking about. No, the first sif I was with you, I got it. The second part, it looks too deep for me, I don't understand what you're saying. So there's two ways to do it. Either you pick up your Zechmiyayish, or the Deretzachana di Verstehst. And the Rebbe doesn't want that. The Rebbe wants you to say, I don't understand. Because when you tell the Rebbe you don't understand, the Rebbe says, you're right, you taka don't understand. I know you don't understand. Keep on learning. You go to Siv Beis, you understand. What you don't understand, you can write down as a Shaila. Then you go to Siv Gimel, and that's how you keep on going. You finish the Torah once, you go back in the beginning, you start again the Torah. You start again, you start learning, looking at the words. And every time you look at the words again and again, every time you'll understand something you didn't understand before. And that's how it works. And you can learn the Torah 30, 40 times. No pressure. There's not supposed to, there's a certain thing a lot of times, there's a pressure. I have to finish the Torah, I have to understand the Torah. There's not supposed to be any pressure. You have to go with the Torah mamish, like in a way from the Tile B'Torah. You're walking with the Rebbe, and you're happy what you understand, and what you don't understand, you have his boydis, you have to feel on it. I want to understand better what you mean, Rebbe. It's not just understanding what you mean in Pshat. It's trying to understand how is it relevant for my life. If the Rebbe starts over here in Torah Chofein, the Rebbe says that you should know that there's a voida that you have to take yourself out of the Medama, and you have to go up to the Seichel. And then the Rebbe says that after that there's another voida. After you go up to the Seichel is a Seichel B'koyach, and then you have to be Moitzi to become a Seichel B'foyach, and then it has to become a Seichel Anikna. Are these stam words that are not relevant for me? I mean, I'm living here in America, 2022. Does Rav Nachman have what to tell me? Is he talking to me? So the emunah is that we have to have as Breslov is, yes, he's talking to you. And he's telling you, yes, if you learn my Torah, you understand, every day you're going to get up and understand how everything has to do with Seichel Anikna. Everything has to do with a process that's going from Koyach HaMadama to Seichel B'Koyach, to Seichel B'Foyel, and then goes to Seichel Anikna. Your mom is going to start living it and knowing and believing that everything that's going through in your personal life has a shaykhus with this thing. But the difference is going to be that you're going to be able to connect your personal life to Asogas Alikus. When your head, when a younger man puts his head into the Rebbe's Torahs, and the Rebbe's speaking about ideas, let's go back to Terain, about Shiflis, about the Mishkan, about Alikus, about Kavod, all these things, when your head is around these things, you're actually living Asogas Alikus. This is Asogas Alikus. But you're living Asogas Alikus in your level, which that's the Ikar Asogas Alikus. Like the Rebbe explains in Torah Lamed, the idea of bringing out to the world Asogas Alikus and giving everyone the feeling that no one knows what's going on, it's just me. I'm the big Rebbe that knows all these things, and you could connect only in a way from Emunah to believe that's as if in Yiddish, like people look at Likutey Moran today. They don't know how to learn Likutey Moran, so that's how people look at Likutey Moran. Yes, Chassidische guy, Yitamul Gesendem Sefer Likutey Moran from Nachman. Vade. What do you say about the Sefer? I mean, he's not a Misnagel. He says Zaya, very deep Sefer. So what do? You learn it? No, because he doesn't feel that he can understand the Sefer. And the truth is that the Muskel Rishon, if you look at the Sefer, it's very hard to understand the Muskel Rishon. Only if you sit down and you have the Emunah, like the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, you should know that every word that in my Sefer and every Torah, every word, every ois is b'mido b'mishkul godel. The Rebbe doesn't throw stam words. Every word is b'mido b'mishkul godel. Now, why did the Rebbe say that every word is b'mido b'mishkul godel? Stam, we should know that his Sefer is very deep. And when the Rebbe said that my Sefer is like a palace from Echolois, mit Chedorim, why did he say it? Because he wants you to see it in his Sefer. He wants you to see tak and feel. And if you're going to check and try and understand how every word is b'mido b'mishkul godel, then you have a chance, taka, to reach and to understand the Rebbe's Torahs. There's a lot of sikhs about the Rebbe said about his Sefer. The Rebbe said that when my Sefer Likutey Moran et ongewell nemen in die Welt, kem ze great of Mashiach. When my Sefer Likutey Moran is going to be mekubel in the world, it's when ongenem, not like today. Today Likutey Moran is not ongenem. Today Likutey Moran is either there's a snagdis to the Reb Nachman, or either you don't understand it. Ongenem means that it's going to become a Sefer that everyone's going to want to learn the Sefer. Everyone's going to want to take out a Sogas Likus and a Derech and Avodas Hashem from this Sefer. When that's going to happen, Mashiach is going to come. That's a Tchalta de Gula. My Sefer is a Tchalta de Gula. In another Sikha, the Rebbe said, what's the difference between me and Mashiach? That what I say, people don't listen. But to Mashiach, they'll listen. That means actually Mashiach is going to say the same ideas, bring the same ideas into the world that Rav Nachman brought into the world. But the world doesn't know about it. The world doesn't want to listen. Rav Nachman said also that when Mashiach is going to come and he's going to speak Torah for Klal Yisrael, he's going to say, K'di'i sib Likutey Moran. That's what he's going to say. So we have to be open ourselves. I don't know how much everyone here is a Breslov and how much Emunah has a Rav Nachman and what everyone thinks about Rav Nachman. Part of Breslov is Halba Breslov, is Makurov.
Everybody Breslov.
Okay, good. So we have to be open ourselves. Rav Nachman hat gehalten. That's what his day, and he said it out clear. My Sefer, this is the Das and the Torah that the generation before Mashiach is going to need. Rav Nachman said, for me, Mashiach nicht sein kanais. What does that mean for me, Mashiach nicht sein kanais? If there was always in every generation, Klal Yisrael, there was a new aspect, a new part of Torah that came into the world, like Kabbalah came in a certain time into the world, which Pnimis HaTorah, which everyone then said, and till today we say that the Pnimis HaTorah, that's the Akdama for Mashiach's times. Mashiach, to be able to come into the world, you need Pnimis HaTorah. And then Chassidus came into the world. So Rav Nachman said about his Torah, that this is the last kind of Torah that's going to come into the world. Why? Because this is the Torah actually that the last generation is going to need. Now, if Rav Nosson writes, the biggest Talmud from the Rebbe, Rav Nachman, writes that the Ikar Tzadiki Teirosei Akdosha, which means, if you want to know what's the main part of the Rebbe, what's the main part of Rav Nachman? It's the Sichos, it's what we know, it's like, what does the world know today from the Rebbe? You chap a guy in the guy, say, you know, you ever heard about Breslov? Yeah, Breslov. Yeah, very nice guys. I live in Lakewood, I know them. Yeah, what's Breslov all about? Can you tell me? Oh, Breslov is ancient Yish Boilim, Klal. Very nice idea. I personally don't need it because I'm not in Yish. I don't know what the Breslov is a whole day talking about Yish. They have Yish. But yeah, the young generation today, you know, walking around today, they're mamish, they need Rav Nachman. They need Rav Nachman. Yeah, I even heard the Rav said once that Rav Nachman, without Rav Nachman in the world, how would we take care of the young generation? I mean, today's times, we need Rav Nachman. Yeah, Rav Nachman's good for these people, for these Miyu Oshim. What else do you know about Breslov? Simcha. Yeah, Simcha. What else? Nekudas Toivus. Very nice idea, Nekudas Toivus. What the world knows today from Rav Nachman is nothing. Because the true Rav Nachman, what has to come out in the world and what's needed is in his Torah. The part of the sichos, the nostalgia, how do you say? Well, even as a Breslov, you grew up. That's what the part where I say I thought I'm a Breslov. I grew up in Breslov. I heard a lot of sichos. I knew Ovdei Hashem. I know everything, and it's true. That's all the part that's the part the first part that you need to connect to the Rebbe, the Tmimis Pshitas that there is in Breslov, the Simcha, the Chaskas, the Suris. But if you really want to take a journey with the Rebbe, if you really want the Rebbe to pick you up from where you are, take you out from Shel Tachtis, and I don't care what anybody thinks of what Shel Tachtis, everyone with his own Shel Tachtis. But there's a lot of people in Shel Tachtis, and there's a lot of kind of Shel Tachtis today. If you want the Rebbe Rav Nachman to pick you up and take you out from where you are and make you a tzad gadol, the Rebbe said, through my Torah you become about tshuva gama. The Rebbe said, I'm taking you, the Rebbe said, ich nehme euch nach Weg from größer tzadikim. The Rebbe didn't want us stam to be Breslov Chassidim walking around and, you know, mechazik, ischaskes, you know, halbet zerbrochene kelim azerchen ischaskes. The Rebbe wanted to make out of every Breslov Chassid a big tzaddik. And the Rebbe says, I could do it. I could do it. You want to do it? Sit down and learn with me a chavrusa. That's how you do it. You want to hear what I, Rav Nachman, have to tell you? What's my message to you? Let's sit down and learn. You want to learn with me? Let's choose a Torah. Well, now we did a fair. We choose for the whole Breslov, we choose Torah Chafei. That's the way. You sit down with the Rebbe and you say, okay, Rebbe, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here, 2020, living in Lakewood. What do you have to tell me? You start, and you start meeting all kinds of ideas and words, amazing, sweet, Molechein, Moleyir, Moley Ahavas Hashem. That's, you have a day, you meet the Rebbe every day. You meet him when you get up, even when you're not looking at the Sefer. You get up in the morning and you say, Rebbe, we stopped yesterday. Where were we yesterday? We stopped by this idea. What are we doing today? And if you learn with the Rebbe and you're ready to accept from the Rebbe and you sit down and learn every day his Torah, the Rebbe starts talking to you. You mamish feel like it's a different connection. I'm telling you from my experience, I'm telling you from all the thousands of people I learn Likutey Moran at Yisrael now. What I hear, people meet me, people tell me what they feel. They feel mamish how they have a connection every day with the Rebbe, with a murdika ahava to the Rebbe. You start loving Rab Nachman. It's not stam, you say the Rebbe. And I feel a lot of times, I'm telling you personally, when I talk about the Rebbe, I like to say Rab Nachman. I don't know why, because saying the Rebbe is like, I'm Hamish with him, you know? Yeah, I'm like the Breslov. The Rebbe, you know the Rebbe. What the Rebbe? What do I know from the Rebbe? What do I have a connection with? If the Rebbe said to Rab Nosson, that what you know about me is mikzah shebe mikzas. That means that we don't know anything. So for me, in a certain way, it's like every day you're having the choice to know a tzaddik that's called Rav Nachman of Breslov, to know him and to hear from him a new eitzah. One of the things that Rav Nosson writes a lot in Likutey Halachos, they have to look for the tzaddik. You have to look, mechapes, you have to look for the tzaddik. What do you mean look for the tzaddik? I'm here in Breslov. What do you look for the tzaddik? Where am I going to look for? And Rav Nosson writes that if you have to look in the tzaddik and take out from his Torah eitzos chadoshos, new eitzos. What does it mean new eitzos? Rav Nosson is actually saying that the generation today needs new ideas, new ischaskes, to be able to connect to the Eibishter from this generation. Whatever's going on today, there has to be an idea, a Torah. And like Rav Nosson writes, and the Rebbe himself said, his Torah comes from a very high place. It says before Mashiach is going to come, that's not what Rav Nachman says, it says in Kabbalah, there's going to be an Izgala, Torah, Atikas Timor, a very high Torah, that this Torah is going to be needed for the generation before Mashiach. And Rav Nosson writes, this is the Torah, Rav Nachman's Torah, this is the Torah which you need. So how do we reach his Torah? How do we have a part in his Torah? Only if we learn his Torah. And we learn a Torah the way it's supposed to be. Tell me when to...
Deze Mashiach Torah?
Was?
Dus gaat Mashiach lernen?
Mashiach geht zogen, ja. Mashiach geht zogen dieselbe Idees, was Rav Nachman sagt. Ich will start mal eine Sache wegen Mashiach. Okay, I want to say something about Mashiach. Not I'm a big mumcha about Mashiach, but if what I'm saying is true, so this is what Rav Nachman actually is saying. You think about Mashiach. Mashiach is going to come one day into the world. Like, how's Mashiach going to come to the world? What is he, all of a sudden he's going to come out of heaven? I want to understand it. I want to try to imagine it. Mashiach is coming. The day he's going to come. I know there's a process. I know he's going to come. He's going to come with a chamor, without a chamor. I don't know. No one really knows how the process is going to come. But the geula that's going to come, how is it going to become? All of a sudden the sky is going to open up and some face is going to show up and say, hello, I'm Mashiach. Mashiach is a process. It's a process which you see in every turn of Likutey Moran. That means that what Mashiach is actually going to do is he's going to change and to bring a das, a ruach, which is going to take every concept that we have today in the world, any concept of chokhmah, any concept that takes away from the Eibishter, and he's going to show that everything proves Achdus Haborah. Everything today that we have, technology, ideas, philosophia, whatever there is that's lechoira, something that takes away, it's a koach machriach from the Eibishter. What Mashiach is going to do is, he's going to bring such a Torah, such a das, that we're going to see that fakert, not that it's a steer to the Achdus from the Eibishter. Fakert, it shows the godless from the Eibishter, that the Eibishter is in everything. The Eibishter is in Mader, and Refuah, and Chochmah. There's nothing sois to the Eibishter. Such kind of Torah to be able to show you how everything in life and everything what's going on is a part of a process. That the only Torah that does that is Likutey Moran. Every Torah Likutey Moran shows you that whatever's going on with you, whatever life you're living, whatever's going through with you in your life, everything is a part of a process that's nitzrach for your tikkun. The whole thing is to take what's taking you away from the Eibishter, make it become a power and an energy for a part of the hava and the connection to the Eibishter. And every Torah comes back on itself, the same idea, but in a different way. That the Rebbe shows you that every power that's a shlili, every power that's a negative power, the Rebbe could show you that any power, any understanding in Ahava could become Ahavas Hashem. And that's the idea. The idea is that you should take what you feel, what you grew up, what you're dealing with, in any understanding in Ahava, any Ahava Surah there is in the world, and use this Ahava, change it to like the Eibishter. That's the whole tikkun. And that's the whole power in Ahava. And the same thing about Yira. If you have Yiras Nefulis, if you have any kind of anxieties, years, whatever it is, the Rebbe will show you through a Torah Likutey Moran that your tikkun is to take the yira, this thing that's disconnecting you from the Eibishter, and make it part of your journey to the Eibishter. The only sefer today that speaks actuality today to the world, that knows how to deal with all the problems of the generation, psychology and everything, is Likutey Moran. There's no question about it. And if you don't believe me, you have to try it out. Whoever's sitting here and says that he doesn't believe what I'm saying, it's normal. I would not also believe. But if you take a Torah Likutey Moran, you learn it for a few months, and you start seeing what is in the Rebbe's Torah, you'll understand why it makes sense that the Torah from the Rebbe is the Torah from Mashiach. It's nicht am Chassidische Meises. A lot of Chassidim say things. I heard this Chassid says that when Mashiach is going to come, his Rebbe is going to daven Musaf for the Amid. And that Rebbe says that when Mashiach is going to come, so he's going to drink L'chaim with his Rebbe. It's very normal that every Chassid should think that his Rebbe is Mashiach or whoever it is. But if you really want to understand why you're saying that Rab Nachman is Tzaddik Ador, and why Rab Nachman is Taka, the Torah that's needed, and why I have a Rebbe that's Taka, the Tzaddik Ador, you have to start learning his Torah. If you don't learn his Torah, it's like it's a Munah B'li Das. It's a Munah B'li Das. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna cut to the chase over here. What we want to try to do right now, we want to try to bring in people, start with Breslov Chassidim, because that's how they started. You can't start Likutey Moran Stamazoi, because the first thing is you have to have a munah that everything b'mido b'mishkul godel, and it's not a book, it's not a sefer stam, it's geschrieben do euch kabol. You have to have a Breslovkeit in sich. Just like you have a munah in the Rebbe, Tvim Subshitis, to be mekayim all of his eitzes, simchis, boidus, nukudis toivis. You have to have this munah that the Rebbe is sefer, something that you can learn, you can understand, the Rebbe wants you to learn it. If we Breslov Chassidim are going to sit down and start learning together Likutey Moran, it's going to bring a moyerdikis chaskis into Breslov B'chalal in America. And it'll bring a moyerdik achdis. Two Breslovs meet each other. What do they talk about today? Oh, you're Breslov. What do they talk about? Politics? This Rav, this Machloikis, this Shtusim. If two Breslovs meet together and they could talk a Torah from the Rebbe together, ideas from the Rebbe together, brings a moyerdik achdis, a moyerdik chizik, a moyerdik chiyas. But the main thing is that if Breslov together here, it's not so hard to do it. A koil here in Lakewood, a koil in Borough Park, a koil in Williamsburg. 4 or 5 koils, that's the base. So if you're like sitting and learning a Torah, it changes the whole Breslov shul. The whole Breslov environment changes because you have obviously the light that are living the Rebbe's Torahs. And if we do that, there's a big chance, Be'ez Hashem, that we can have a part in doing what we're responsible to do. A Breslov Chassid today is everyone's taking care of himself. Everyone's with his own Yuridis and his own problems. He's happy that he has a Reb Nachman that keeps on helping him and giving him chizik. But the feeling that you have a mission, you have a shlichus, the Rebbe chose you as a Breslover, and he doesn't need you a whole day to talk about your own Yuridis. The Rebbe says, you do what you have to do. The Rebbe said, your tafkid is on, in Yiddish, I forget, you have to water the flowers, the Rebbe said. The Rebbe wanted every Breslover Chassid to walk around ontim the beima. The Rebbe wanted a Breslover Chassid not just to be busy with his own self, with his own personal life, thinking how he becomes better. And whatever's going outside, that's not my problem. I'm so low that who am I to talk outside to give chizik? The Rebbe is saying, no, that's part of the way. It's part of the journey. You walk around with a Torah, you have these small paths that we every Torah, you have Duras Kish, you walk around with it, you meet another person, you give him an eitzah from the Rebbe, from Rab Nachman, you give him a chizik. That's the way you help the world, and that's the way you help yourself. And every Breslov Chassid has this responsibility to be meifids the Rebbe's Torahs and the Rebbe's eitzes in the world. B'shem Hashem Nasav and Atzliach. I hope I was able to express the idea enough. And Be'ez Hashem, I hope to be b'kesher with Rav Nachman Fried, and who else is over here in Lakewood? Yossi Katz.
No, we're going to get
we have to open it.
Want to start Sunday.
Something has to start over here. Just like in Eretz Yisrael in America and certain places, start koilim. People should sit and learn the Rebbe's Torahs. And Be'ez Hashem, through that, Be'ez Hashem, Avad and Avada will mamash see Atchalte de Gula, and everyone for himself, and Avad and Avada will have a Gula in his own personal life. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach.